Remember that story where two black kids, one valedictorian, salutatorian, and then the parents of the white kids went complain and they decided to have a co-valedictorian and a co-salutatorian? Well, Halle Velshi decided to go exactly the place of the crime. And when he got there, he had a very civil, educational conversation with the parents. And I tell you what, if we did more of what Ali did, if the media was honest in the way people like Ali and a few others tackle real problems where they actually get discourse and communication, we will get real far in America. I want you to listen to this, and then let's take it on the other side, because I have some additional comments that I want to make.
Do y'all understand how dangerous what's going on right now is, and how this could lead to somebody getting hurt or even killed? There's a very irresponsible article from the New York Times that came out. If you read the article, there's some substance to it, but the headline and the first few paragraphs paint it as something that it's not.
The media criticism won't be edited out.
The thing with white privilege, not everyone sees it. And so you may feel like you may not have it, and that's fine. But
yes,
if you
I understand
hold,
what you're saying, yeah.
But if you hold a certain name, that means something. Or if you can pick up a phone and make a phone call, that means something. It's the optics of it all. The families are not threatening each other. It's the outside people giving this energy, and I get it. It's when you can pick up a phone and say, hey, this is not right. But I can't pick up a phone and say, hey, this isn't right. It just is what it is.
There is a context here, because this is one of a handful of states that in the 60s and into the early 70s went with these segregated academies because people didn't want to integrate. That's part of why the construct of what we think about exists. And I wanted to come here to ask you yourselves, does that exist?
You've heard the quote, if you tell a lie long enough and loud enough, the people will believe it. These journalists know what happened. They know a mistake was made, and they choose to divide for the sake of a click on an article. There's no story in honest mistake made in West Point, Mississippi. Is there some uneasiness around race relations in West Point right now and across our country? Yes. And it's
But you understand that's a piece of privilege to call it uneasiness, right? Because I've spent the year talking to people who are scared for their lives. It's not uneasiness to them. So that's the part of it that's the privilege, right? You're not incorrect, but for you, it's uneasiness. For some people, it feels like life or death.
100%. I understand exactly what you're saying.
Do you feel like this is a relatively harmonious place where people get treated fairly despite the color of their skin?
It just depends on the situation. If he walked by, he'll speak, I'll speak. There's no, mad tension and things like that here. But again, the underlying privilege is still here. When you have families that have had industry here, with privilege, there's money, there's influence, that is definitely here.
I grew up very, very not wealthy or rich or anything, and my children have not grown up wealthy or rich or anything either.
Allie, what she's talking about is something that was reported in the New York Times, and it suggested that Emma's relationship to one of the co-founders of Bryan Foods somehow had something to do with this. The suggestion is that a man that died in 1968 somehow from the grave influenced this.
He left a legacy here. Certain families' last name still has influence. And you may not see it, but me being black, I see it.
So just to cut right through it, you're saying that may have influenced the response from the school superintendent.
That's my feeling and my understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I understand what you're saying, but we didn't use that. My daughter earned this by her merit only. But I'm being honest with you. This was nothing underhanded on you. We deserve this more than you do. If your daughter if they'd have gone by QPA and you won, I would have shook her hand, I'd have hugged her neck, I'd have done whatever. I'd have been just as proud of her.
I want both of you to hear me say, you don't have to say your last name. Sometimes things are just unconscious and kind of given sometimes. So I understand that you probably did not go into that office saying who your family is, and you don't have to. The overall picture is 2 black girls were given credit for having A's and B's, or AB, from 8th to 12th grade. They were giving a score that included rigorous courses along with regular courses. Based on that number, they were the highest 2. Then when they were given that award, and I'm just telling you the optics of it.
Yes, ma'am, I get it.
And then when they were given that award, a phone call was made, just a phone call, right? And a meeting was given to add grades, do some other things, and all of a sudden things changed. And now Val and Sal is being shared by two white students that were basing their GPA off of regular, unweighted grades. And to appease everyone, let's go back to let's have one white, one black. So thank you for offering that. That's wonderful. But it's the optics of what it looks like. And so people are angry, of course, news articles, but that's the picture that they're seeing.
There's so much to unpack there, but the first part I want to give Ali Velshi a lot of credit, because first of all, he allowed the people to speak to each other. He sometimes stayed out of the discussion so that there could be real understanding among people. But the second thing he did is where he needed to check the narrative that one of the parents gave when he said, yes, there is some racial uneasiness. Ali Velshi corrected that. He said to you, let me explain a little bit of privilege to you. It could be that you feel uneasy, but that is the only thing you have, an uneasy feeling. But to others, to people of color, much of this to them is scary and existential. We're not only talking about the grades, we're talking about the privilege to have the impact that one can have. In this case, one of the parents of the original valedictorian and salutatorian said it perfectly. She said, there are certain things that don't have to be said. When a Bush walk into the room, she doesn't have to say, I am a Bush, give me some sort of benefit. And yes, not all the times it's racial, sometimes it's class, many other issues. But in too many cases, and in many cases where it has been life or death, yes, many times it is racial as well. It was also wonderful for the both parents to point out that from their point of view, their kids work hard for something, and that's true. All 4 kids worked hard. But those 2 black kids did something that many constantly tell black folk and other folks who have, for historical reason, not gotten the accomplishments, work harder, do more. And these girls did that. They took the harder courses. They did all that was asked of them. And appropriately so, QAP was used. Somebody taking simple algebra compared to somebody taking differential equations, one is substantially more difficult and substantive than the other and should be weighted higher. And that is what was done. So in order, and one of the parents said it, in order to appease, and remember what direction appeasement goes into. When she says, some people get the opportunity to make a call. That's all they have to do. Make a call and changes are made. In the case of the original valedictorian and salutatorian, the other parents made a call. They got a change. Nobody called the original valedictorian and salutatorian to say, come to the school, let's discuss this. A change was made without them, and they weren't even given the dignity to be informed. They had to go after hearing it through the grapevine and find out what happened. Otherwise, they would have showed up at the graduation and not realize that they were sharing an award unjustly. Folks, this is a learning experience, and if you watch how Ali Velshi dealt with it, with open eyes, allowing everyone to communicate, and also for the viewer to be able to see things as they are, because everybody there, they were honest, and they said what they felt. They said what they believe. Whether what they believe was less than accurate or not, again, one person's uneasiness is one person's existential fear. Let's remember that. Very good job, Ali Velshi. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.